Hi, everyone. John Haldy here, and I'm excited to have with me Mike Lo Presti. Mike, welcome.
Hi, John. Great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
And for those of you who haven't met Mike yet, Mike is the founder, the CEO, and the chief tire scientist. You're a nerd like me. I like it. Chief tire scientist at Fuel and Tire Savers Systems. Is that the correct pronunciation of the whole name?
Yeah, that's it. That's us.
Um, Mike, you're very gracious to take time out of your day today. I know you're in Charlotte, and I can see, good on you for showing that you're at the NASCAR Technical Institute. Did I hear right that the tire industry is convening there for a big confab today?
Yeah, I'm actually here with the Tire Industry Association. There's some training going on. We're always trying to understand tires better. We use that to bring to our customers. So we're here today. I got some cool stuff around me. I got to show you real quick if I could.
Oh, very cool.
Little tree and then a little backdrop there. But I'm down here for geez, you're probably like me, John. You take a break. I think you're taking a break to take care of a few things, and it's just 15-hour days. But love it. We love everything we're doing, so we're excited about
Well, I love it too. And I'm not as big a tire junkie as you are, but the conversation we had not too long ago, you turned me on to some information that blew my mind about tires and tire pressure. And I really wanted to get with you so that we could do that conversation in more detail and get it recorded so we can share it with the folks who watch these things. So thank you.
That sounds great. Again, happy to be here.
So if I could set it up this way, and I looked at my notes, I think I got it down, but the three big reasons why tire pressure matters are safety, tire costs, and fuel efficiency. Did I get that right?
Yes, yes, it is. And it's a big deal for each of those areas.
So at the end, we're going to talk about how you do that differently, but could we just talk about those three things and why TSPs, line haul contractors, why they should be paying attention to those three things and how it relates to tire pressure?
Sure, I'd love to. Love to. That's right in our wheelhouse.
Let's start with safety. Tell me, please, why tire pressure impacts that.
So I don't. First of all, I don't think we can emphasize safety enough. Okay, so with tires, it's the tire is the most complicated part on a truck, and it's the only contact with the road. So by virtue of definition, if the tires don't work, the truck doesn't move. But more importantly, is tires have been around for 100 years, and what you find out is in the tire space, that's in tire management. Often we're sloppy, and unfortunately, it can lead to drastic results. And just one thing is keep in mind that, FedEx is continuing to look at safety. If you want to grow your fleet, you've got to have a great safety score. You can't afford an issue. And often we're out, we do over 100 tractors now every month. And we find tire pressures that are unbelievably low. We find tire pressures, and we have a contractor will tell us, oh, that truck pulled to the left, So we're all about fixing that problem, making every truck safer. And leading to profitability for the TSP contractors.
So you got blowouts, you got pulling to the left, crossing the double yellow. What are the other kinds of horrific things that can happen with tire pressure?
So almost all blowouts are caused by underinflation. So underinflation is an issue. So the physics of a tire is you fill it up to a pressure, but it's always leaking, right? So when it either leaks because there's a stem valve or there's an actual leak, might have a nail in a tire, but you also certain pressure leaks actually through the sidewall, permeates through the tire. That's normal. But over time, and then of course the most important thing is when temperature changes, the pressure in the tire changes. And that's just the physics of how gas compresses and condenses when it gets cold out. So tires are always losing pressure. And what happens is without the right maintenance, they become what's called underinflated. An underinflated condition really is anything below the set value recommended from the manufacturer. Unfortunately, in the TSP space, we find tires when we get started considerably low. And so that can lead to, the number one cause of a blowout is an underinflated tire because it generates a lot of heat. The sidewall gives out. So from a safety standpoint, it's nothing should be messed around. You can't run a great company if you're not taking care of your people and your drivers and you're making them safe. And so they have, tires are now doing what they're supposed to do, and less unplanned, failures. In essence.
I've heard some horror stories in accident cases where plaintiffs' attorneys start digging into what TSPs or trucking companies do, and they find that there's sort of an ignorance on that side, and they use it against the defendants. Have you ever heard of a case where plaintiffs have asked to see, are you tracking tire pressure? Were you monitoring this?
Oh,
To it?
Well, no, there's just no question. So, and I'm a professional engineer for 35 years. I think you may remember that. And I'm licensed in several states. So a lot of the work I do in engineering now happens to be in expert witness space. And I had a case, believe it or not, where it was an injury, it was an accident, and it went to court to settle the financing because somebody got injured. And in the process, I had to do an inspection. And sure enough, I inspected the vehicle, and the tires were at 50% what the tire pressure was supposed to be. So that's evidence a jury sees that says, hey, this wasn't manufactured. And the commercial space, wasn't manufactured, it wasn't maintained. It says that vehicle wasn't maintained because pressure was half of what it was supposed to be, right? It's often overlooked. And then, of course, that impacts stopping distance and performance of the vehicle. But also, the key thing to remember is FedEx is looking at liability. And one of the things with big tractors and rigs, if there's to be any kind of issue with the tire and accident, it gets bad quick because the liability, because of a truck, you're talking about FedEx trucks, 50,000 pound truck, and you have a wheel tire problem, that becomes a real issue. Not a place to mess around at all.
So maybe this is an ignorant question, but the TSPs provide the tractor, FedEx provides the trailers. How big of, there's a certain number of wheels on the tractor, some on the trailers, like, do you have to take care of all of it? Is it not worth dealing with a tractor if the trailer's messed up?
So the way we approach it, so most of the TSP guys are operating, they both pull doubles, which is 2 trailers. So that means they've got a trailer, they've got a dolly, so they have a trailer connected to their tractor, and they have a dolly that FedEx provides, and they have another trailer connected to the dolly. FedEx, because they all have automated air, there is some minimum pressure set in the tires of the tractors, but where we are, this is early stages of how we're participating with the TSP contractors. Now, we have customers that are tractor trailer drivers that are pulling 80,000 pounds flatbed tractors, tractor and the trailer, and we do all of their tires, right? So 18 tires. And we have a case where we save 4,000 gallons of fuel a year for a tractor trailer operator. But in this case, all we can control is the tractor. FedEx has to worry about the trailer. We hope that someday they realize how we're helping the environment because we save a lot of fuel, and we'll help with the trailer. But right now, we can just deal with the only thing that's controlled by the contract.
FedEx, if you're listening, Mike would love to hear from you about the trailers, for the record.
But we definitely want to take care of the dollies because we think the dollies are key because remember, we calculate how much fuel in essence we can save. And you're right, FedEx pulling double configuration, that's 22 tires touching the ground. We want them all inflated because that lowers the rolling resistance, improves the fuel economy. And so having said that, the one thing is there's a lot of variability, right? Because if I have a tractor that's perfect, fully inflated tires, well maintained, I could hook it up to a trailer that's not well maintained and suffer a penalty if my fuel economy drop. So,
but certainly in a lawsuit, you'd much rather be pointing the finger elsewhere than looking at your own tractor as the cause of the blowout and the accident, right?
Every great business takes care of their equipment, makes it last longer. It's the right thing to do. It's good for the drivers. Clearly, it's much more critical of the tractor, right? Trailer blowouts happen too all the time. And the thing is, with that, you can kind of manage it a little bit. And I don't even know their procedure. I'm sure FedEx has to recover that. But FedEx is on a tire program, I'm sure, with some level of maintenance. All we can do really is focus on what the TSP operator can control. The other thing is that I don't want to burden the TSP operator with any costs trying to maintain equipment by FedEx. It's one thing
No, but
they own versus.
But the environment these days is FedEx is aggressively looking at their risk liability issues and their costs associated with it. And they're trying to share some of that cost with TSPs and push those costs down the line to the contractors. And, it's becoming more and more important to not have accidents and not have issues where you have to bear these things, because the copays, if it's found to be preventable, are extreme. And the insurance premiums reflect the fact that these risks go up when you have the accident. So if saving your tires can keep you from having the incident, it's hard to give you an exact quantification, but it could potentially be a big number, right?
Oh, it's huge. I would tell you that I think without doubt, we probably our service would pay for itself in terms of the life of the tires. So you have to understand FedEx, even though they have trailers, because they're not paying they're paid for the fuel. They pay for the fuel, on the other end. So at the end of the day, but they're paying by the mile. The cost of the fuel by the gallon is, of course, a TSP operator. So whether or not it's more fuel efficient, it doesn't matter, because it's not going to matter to FedEx.
We're going to get to fuel because I'm a fuel junkie. Like you love tires, I love fuel. Let's move from safety then. And you just mentioned something that I want to go after. You say that this program pays for itself just with the cost of tires. So let's talk about that. How does this impact the life of the tires, and what kind of savings can people expect?
So we can get, so what we do is we come out, just to make sure everyone understands exactly what our service is. We come out, whether it's in the day if you run at nights, or whether it's during the night if you run during the day. We come out every month and we inflate the tires with the very high purity Astrea nitrogen. We call it Astrea. It's our own manufactured nitrogen. But we use that in every tire we inflate. And what we're doing is we do a couple things. Number one is we inspect the tire. We're inspecting the sidewall. We're inspecting the tread. We're measuring the tread depth every month. We basically are building profiles of the tires to understand how they're operating and how effective they're doing their job. Then we actually measure the before pressure, and then we fill them to the required pressure. And the required pressure is either the manufacturer's pressure, or we sometimes make some slight changes to improve the wear condition. And we do that basically every month. So we get to basically profile and understand the tires. And then what we're trying to do is lower the rolling resistance, which means we're optimizing the tires. So we call this tire optimization. But what happens is along the way, it actually also saves a lot of fuel because it lowers the rolling resistance. But that process also extends the life of the tire now, because your tire carcass doesn't do a lot of flexing because it's at the right pressure. The less flexing means the less heat that's brought into that tire. And then properly inflated tire, of course, wears correctly, which means we can get 30 to 40% life of the tire. And we've done this lots of different vehicles. We do motor coaches, we do cement mixing trucks, but the FedEx tractor is a place where, and it really makes a difference. Some guys run the fifth axle towards the back, which means the weight is biased towards the second axle, the second drive axle. In that scenario, we would slightly inflate those pressures to reflect the added weight. And so every kind of truck we look at them custom, we know the set pressure and we know how much the variation in pressure is for every wheel. We're just trying to get it to last long.
I'm an ignoramus. Probably everybody viewing this knows this, but I'm going to ask because I'm curious. Properly inflated, how many miles do you think a tire should get you in terms of life, or is that dependent on the manufacturer?
So there's lots of variables here, and nowadays they don't really measure tires by mileage life anymore. It's really cost per mile for tires, but there's no reason. It's a hard number to answer, but we're talking about it's achievable to get 80, 100,000 miles for a FedEx tractor, if not more. I'm sure there's guys getting a lot more than that. And right now, we're still trying to get our hands on that because a lot of guys don't have great data, so they can't tell you. They don't tell us. They can't tell us how many miles they're getting on a set of tires. Our goal, though, is to reduce the wear rate and get the tires to wear evenly so that the total cost of tires goes down, right? And you add that to the fuel. And the other thing is, if we can get tires to last longer, that's less changes per tractor, right? Less tire changes lowers your cost. But quite often we'll get started and we'll show up and there's be quite a bit of underinflation. We find a lot of nails in tires. which, just need to be addressed right away. So that's what we do. We make sure we're coming at night or coming through the day. Whenever we find any issue, we're getting it right back to the TSP operator so they can ensure that vehicle is ready to go by the next shift. In essence.
So let's talk about fuel, because this is, I think, where some big numbers can pop up, right? Have you done any experiments yet? I had encouraged you when we spoke last to do this. Any experiments yet with any TSPs to actually measure what the miles per gallon that a truck was getting before your system, and then to see what the impact was on those trucks after you got the tires optimized for pressure? What happened?
Yeah, we're doing that constantly. That's the whole thing. So what we're doing, if we can just respect the fact that there's a lot of variation in tire pressure, right? Has lots of reasons, but tire pressure is always going down, and each tire becomes somewhat underinflated. Then we come out and we basically raise the tire pressure to what it should be, right? We've correlated that variability in tire pressure to a direct relationship to fuel waste, in a sense, right? So we actually have numbers. We know for every 1 psi, you have so much fuel economy that gets wasted. And the thing is, this is not new science, because I will tell you that it's well published, and the government and EPA have done a lot of studies, and they will say right off the bat that for a vehicle, for like a 4-tire sedan, for every 1 psi of underinflation, on average, 4 tires, you lose 0.4% fuel economy. Okay, so most folks' tires are typically about 3 or 4 psi low. So if you do the numbers, you realize that you can save about 4% fuel economy just inflating the tires.
Well, that's for a sedan, but have you actually done some numbers with FedEx tractors? And
yes, we do it with tractors, we do it with school buses, we do it with so we basically model that. So we just last week we did a model, and I have to share that with you. What we do is we actually do that. We calculate what the factor is for each truck, and depending on the load they're pulling, the route, where they're going. And we just went through with a customer. He had 5 tractors, Volvo, I think
this is a FedEx
Freightliners, FedEx TSP operator. And I'd love to share this with you. So let's say truck 1, they went from 6.8 miles a gallon to 7.5 miles a gallon. So that's an increase of 0.7 miles a gallon. And this was studied 3 months before our service, and then 3 months after our service.
Now, hold on. Is that a team or a solo? Do you know?
It's running about 3,000 miles a week. So I think that's probably a solo, that one. That one's running 3,600 miles a week. Okay. Truck number.
Truck number 1, because I got a spreadsheet I built for a presentation not too long ago. 6.8 to 7.5 miles per gallon on 3,000 a week is 41 gallons a week saved.
3,600 gallons, 3,600 miles a week. Okay.
3,600.
Yep. And in our calculation, we saved 147 gallons. And then we have now
hold on. I got to double check your math. That sounds not correct. Okay. You said 147 gallons per week or per month?
Sorry, that's that value is that's over 3-month period study period. Total gallons saved.
Because in 1 week with 3,600 miles going from 6.8 to 7.5.
Okay, let's get to 3,600 miles per month, right?
Per month? No.
Per week.
If it's 3,600 per week, and it's either one hell of a busy solo run, or it's slip seating, or it's kind of a weak team run.
So we got 3,600, then we got 7,200, and I believe those numbers that might be okay. I'm gonna have to go to the data.
Let's scale back, and I'm going to put it in solo terms. Okay, for a solo truck getting 2,400 miles a week, it's 33 gallons a week. Okay, and if you take 33 times 52, it's 1,700 gallons a year. At current prices, you do the math, right? That's a big number. That's for a solo.
Okay, well, so 3,600, if it was a month, I'm going to go to the data. I'm not going to guess.
3,600 a month for a truck. The guy's going out of business, so I don't think that's correct.
Okay, so it's 3,600 a week.
Possibly, yeah. But I'm just saying, for a standard solo getting 2,400 miles a week, going from 6.8 to 7.5, 1,700 and change gallons per year saved. Now, obviously, if your tires were perfect when the experiment starts, you're not going to see a huge gain, right? So the question is, how bad are your tires? Can you tell with confidence today that you're actually staying on top of this and checking your tire pressure enough that it doesn't make sense? But you took a sample, you went to somebody and did the first truck, 6.8 to 7.5, like, wow, that's not a small number.
Yeah, and we actually did know that there was quite a bit of, apologize for this, I just wrote this down. So let me get the data and let me just tell you what the number is. And I will tell you that we did find the trucks pretty underinflated. So that number on this truck, the mileage a week is 900 miles a week on that truck.
Okay.
So it's 3,600 per month. So those are miles per month. Okay. So what I have, let's go back to what I have.
That's 12 gallons.
So
It's 642 gallons a year for that truck. That sounds like a spare.
Okay. In fact, it may have been, because I got a couple there was a question about one of them. So it may have been a spare, actually.
Okay.
But in this instance, okay, over the 3-month period, so it was a study for 3 months before service and 3 months after a service. Total gallon save was 147. Truck number 2, let's go to truck 2, 6,000 miles a week. Okay. 6,000 miles a week, went from 6.2 miles a gallon before, 7.7 miles a gallon after.
6.2 to 7.7?
7.7, yes.
Holy crap.
I got over 3 months, we saved 350 gallons. 350 gallons. So 350 gallons times, multiply that out, 1,400 a year. That's pretty serious cash. What do you got?
I think your math is wrong, because if you went from 6.2 to 7.7 at 6,000 miles a week, that's 189 gallons a week.
Is what you're saying.
My calculation, yes. I took 6,000 miles divided by 6.2, and that's 968 gallons. 6,000 miles divided by 7.7 is 779. The difference is 189 gallons a week.
Yeah, but you can't. So I'm doing over a 3-month study period. So I'm saying is it's 354 over 3 months. So you're overestimating. Your system overestimates our calculation. Ours is real, because what happens is the first time we came out in this case, tires were 21 psi underinflated on average, which is significant. It means a couple were really low. The second time we come out, you see if the temperature outside happens to change, be warmer than maybe when we came before, we've had a really weird, kind of fall. What happens is they're not quite the same level of underinflation. So, but the service has benefit. Now, when we came back on month 3, the tires on average were 10 psi low. So then again, what's happening is you can't, you have to do this study. Remember, it's very lumpy in terms of everything we do when you're trying to track fuel mileage. So this is over 3 months, and if you divide it out, you're talking about 100. If I divide it out, about 110 gallons, 110 gallons saved per month. Consider less than your projection, but again, it's probably more accurate, because we also want to take an approach to where I don't want to overstate what we can do. Okay. The reality is, number one is a lot of variation in tires for FedEx operations, right? And the thing is, keep this in mind, right? You got guys going out, TSP, they're dispatching trucks. Those trucks don't know if they're going empty, if they're coming back, one empty, one's full. They don't know what they're pulling. And the truth is, that's a huge impact on fuel cost. And somewhat, the TSP operators a little bit as a disadvantage. At the end of the day, they're working in a business environment. They got to do what they can. We're going to save them as much as we can. Okay. Maybe it's a little bit more, but I'd rather go in, look at the savings we're showing. They're turning 2 times our entire cost. So if it's more, great. we're happy with that too. But we know at the end of the day, it's going to profit. That's a good time, a good thing right now.
So let's sum up with safety. The fewer accidents you might get into, obviously huge benefit. Tire costs, the fewer tires you got to buy, the better benefit. And the longer they last. Am I correct in thinking that newer tires, brand new tires, actually get worse mile per gallon than tires that are broken in?
So interesting. We had in this specific case here, we had two trucks that went down like 0.15 miles a gallon. And ends up they were new trucks, and the tires were half worn, and then they replaced the tires. And they replaced the tires. When you replace the tires, you could take on a penalty of about 4% fuel economy, right? Now, it's also known that as tires wear right before the end of life, you can get up to 6% increase in fuel economy, because the tire, as it wears down, it's actually now got less, the tread blocks do less movement, absorb less energy, which means it's more like a steel wheel rolling in a sense, right? But that's to a limit. Until you hit the minimums, you got to change the tires then, right? So there are the penalties. So there's just a lot of variables in what we're doing. The big thing is we're doing this now 100 tractors every month. So we're taking this data, and what we're doing is every customer individually, we're trying to bring them everything we're learning from better maintaining their tractors to make them more money. We're confident about what we're doing.
So we're going to provide all your contact info, Mike, if anybody wants to call, even to just discuss tires, because I get the sense you'd be happy to talk tires with anybody.
Happy to do it. Happy to do a couple. Been to the line hole show you guys had, talked to a lot of TSP guys, very thankful for all their support, but talk to them all day long on tires.
But it sounds like you're also open to working with a TSP to say, hey, let's craft a way to measure this and gauge whether it's really going to help you or not.
We take that approach with everybody, because we want to show, here's what we're doing, here's how important this is. So most of our guys, we want to get full access to their information. We want to show them where the savings is. What we in essence will do, we'll fix our models, because what we really want to do is we want to know that when we show up, depending on the variability, which you can't really control, we like to know what can we expect in terms of those savings. And the other thing is, keep in mind, is we gather a lot of data. So we can tell our TSP guys what tire needs to be replaced and when, 6 months in advance. So all of a sudden, rather than just having to react, this whole thing about making a tire last longer and the entire maintenance is a big deal. The reason being is, look, tire changing is a complicated deal. That's a lot of risk. All you got to do is think of the tire coming off. There's a lot of stories about, wheel offs, right? But you're running a business, so you don't want to take on changing a tire unless you absolutely have to. That's why less tire changes is just better for the business. And we think that makes a big difference, especially what we're seeing.
And you send a mobile unit to the yard, right?
Oh yeah, the whole thing, our system. So we got several patents on our system. So our system comes out, and what happens is we don't add anything to the vehicle. We connect. We do a tire inspection, 5-point tire inspection. If there's a nail or a leak, we identify that. If there's a stem valve leaking, we'll find that. We'll replace the stem valve on the spot. But the big thing is, if there's we come out, we connect to the chuck. Our system connects to the chuck. It's reading the temperature and the pressure of the tire, of what's in the tire, and then it automatically fills to what we set it. While that's happening, all this data goes by cellular network to our servers, and our tire engineers are looking at the wear patterns on those tires to figure out, hey, should we make a tire pressure change here? Should we make a tire pressure change here? And the fact is, in all racing, that's what they do. You win a car race by changing tire pressures, because that's what, in car racing, it's all about grip and how fast you get around the track. But they do it by modifying the tire pressure to get them to last longer and perform better. We're kind of doing that in the same sense and saving a ton of fuel along the way.
Now you're just showing off that you're at the NASCAR Technical Institute having fun.
There's a reason, it's a reason. We've been pretty fortunate about what we've been able to put together, and then the team I've got working on this. We just won Loud Innovation Challenge. We just got named to a top 10 fleet services by Logistics and Transportation Review magazine. We're onto something pretty neat. There's there is a lot of science behind it, but the reality is in tires, too many people think it's kind of voodoo, and we're starting to really understand the impact, and it saves money, and that, any savings turns right into profit. So we want to track it. We want to figure out how we can make it better for our customers. And the truth is, we're seeing it, right? We're showing up. Tires are low, and we have not found anybody. I mean, the bottom line is most tire guys, dealers, want to sell you another tire. We don't care what you got on it. We're just going to make them last longer. And it's neglected. If you looked at the books that say the rule is you should be inflating your tires every month or before every trip. It's just not practical, especially in the FedEx network. These TSP operators don't have a place to, unless they have their own shop. But even then, they'll tell you that their mechanic's too busy. The driver's not going to inflate tires. Driver's not going to inflate tires anymore. They've got a pre-trip, but it's up to each company to decide what's in that pre-trip check.
So Mike, I want to thank you again for taking time out of your day there in Charlotte to share this with everyone. If folks just want to call and talk tires, cool to reach out. Obviously, if they want to talk to you about business, that's fair game. But we're going to provide all your contact info. And I hope you'll come back soon after you've done some more experimenting and give us some data in terms of how it's impacting the folks you're working with.
Sure, love to, and keep up the great work. I've been watching many of the webinars you've been doing. I think you guys have been great, so I think it's good for the whole industry. One thing I'll mention is, we do a lot of P&D guys. I know you're line haul, but we do this service also for pickup and delivery, and it's the same kind of science. The real benefit with TSP is because if you get a long run and you're doing teams, you can rack up a lot of mileage. So some small change in fuel economy makes a big difference. But really happy to be here, and I'll wish you continued success and wish everybody out there a great holiday season, a safe one.
Mike Lo Presti, thank you, and we'll look forward to seeing you soon.
Appreciate it. Now, happy holidays, John.
You too.
Thanks for having me.